Hello everyone out there, and welcome to episode 14 of the Ramblings of a Film Lover channel. And as you may notice, this is actually the first of my rambling episodes. In case you were ever wondering why my channel has the name that it has, it's because I had intended on doing both ASMR and rambling film review, film discussion type episodes at the same time. They were both gonna be uploaded around the same time, but unfortunately, due to some time constraints and honestly a good bit of writer's block, I never really had the right idea set up, the right kind of dialogue planned out for a rambling episode. But when this past episode of Game of Thrones came out, I knew I had to talk about it. I had to come out of my cave and discuss it. Because a lot of people have a lot of opinions of that episode, particularly one part. And as you can tell by the title of this episode, you know what I'm going to discuss. But I just wanted to say, overall, I really thought that second episode was fantastic. It pulled a lot of people in, and it did it so beautifully. Because I guess a lot of people have been worried about I guess I'd be worried about fan service above all. But I mean, either way, with such few episodes that they have for this season, they did have to kind of, I guess, rush it. Although for me, it didn't seem rushed at all. And I will agree with what Stephen King tweeted, where he said, "As a longtime storyteller, I'm in awe of how perfectly the minds behind the show brought all the major characters together at Winterfell. They made it look easy. Constant readers, it is not." I agree with him. And honestly, I feel like that is the greatest compliment those writers can get, or I would be absolutely complimented if I was a Game of Thrones writer. Stephen King himself thought I did a good job. Like, that's fantastic. I can die happy. Although I would have been happy just working on Game of Thrones anyways. So I feel like honestly, episode 2 was stronger than the first one too. I had issues with mostly the dialogue of the first one. I feel like it was lacking, at least compared to the early seasons, but maybe it's because they haven't had George R.R. Martin, I guess, in there, like offering more. I know he's probably helping him with this season, but it just felt like you could feel his absence. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So the first episode was okay, but this second episode is kind of what I was expecting for the first one. But either way, we're 2 episodes in, we're in it. Next episode, episode 3, is the longest of the season, and you know for a fact this is going to be the Helm's Deep of this season, actually hopefully of the entire series, because they've been, for the most part, battles, excellent battles. I mean, nobody can forget the Battle of the Bastards. That was the most exhausting fight I'd ever seen, and so suspenseful. It was perfect. So I can only imagine that that the next episode is going to be the war. I don't know if it's going to be the entire war, because I also have a feeling that there is probably a good group of White Walkers already heading to King's Landing, but let's just say we're going to lose a lot of people Sunday, most likely, or there's going to be a lot of activity. I really don't want to say too much, because I'm also still in my own head. I'm just thinking of who may pass, who may become a White Walker, who we're going to see, this and this and that. But for this particular episode, you know that this is the calm before the storm, and it really does seem to remind me a lot of The Lord of the Rings, which is why I think a lot of people are calling the next episode Helm's Deep. This is going to be the mother of all battles. And in fact, Podrick's singing reminded me so much of Pippin singing. Pippin sang during the battle, whereas Podrick is singing the night before, but still, it's kind of like that bittersweet goodbye. I mean, all these people gathered together. I don't think a lot of them are gonna see each other again. So it was very beautiful. It was very sad. This past episode had a lot of tender moments. It was a beautiful union, but it was also kind of like time for closure, which is why it was beautiful to see Brienne knighted. And she's so happy because it's honestly all she ever wanted. And the fact that Jaime knighted her, it's even more poetic. So I just loved this episode so much. And speaking of people, I guess, seeking closure, that's what I think Arya was doing. Or honestly, she knows death just as well as any other fighter there. Maybe more so, honestly. What she's been through, the fact that she's had to kill, the fact that she's been trained basically to be an incredible killer. This young woman has lived a hell, and she's come back from it, and she's now back home after everything she's endured. She's with her family, what's left of her family. So she's, I guess, I don't want to say safe, but she's in a place where she can relax just a little bit more, where she can be more human. Even though the White Walkers are coming down, for this brief moment, she's with people she loves. And she's back home in her, the place she was most familiar with. And so, I guess upon seeing Gendry, and the fact that their impending deaths, possibly, maybe, is on her mind, she took it upon herself to make that choice to finally be with a man for the first time, to be with Gendry, which I honestly thought was great. I mean, who better than him? After everything they have been through, this also seemed like a perfect closure. Now, online, a lot of people have been having a lot of issues with it, or they've been talking about how, I guess it wasn't jarring, but it was very shocking for them for a few reasons. So I guess let's start with the first one, the nudity. A lot of people were not expecting to see Arya, technically Maisie Williams, go nude. And she didn't even show that much in comparison to what Game of Thrones usually shows, but she still showed her body. And I guess number one, it would be that it's Arya, so maybe they didn't think she would have even wanted that, but I guess that would be split into the second thing that people kind of criticized about it. But number one, going back to the fact that it's Maisie Williams, I guess they couldn't quite, it was shocking to them because of how she looks. She has a petite frame. She has a almost cherubic face. She could pass for a kid. She's 22 years old, by the way. Maisie Williams, the actress, is 22. And yes, she has that waifish pixie look, which a lot of, let me just name two other actresses are also described like that. And one in particular does actually talk about her frustrations in getting more adult roles because of how she looks. So the first one that I thought of when I was reading about people's shock at, oh, little girl Maisie, having her first love scene. Number one was Sally Field. For the longest time in her career, she portrayed somebody much younger than she really was. She was, I believe, in her early 20s when she played the teenage surfer girl Gidget. So that instantly made me think of that. Like, for the longest time, she could really pass as a teenager, maybe even a little girl. And she also had like a higher pitched voice, so she was probably the first example for me of somebody who was like that pixie forever young type of look. But going to somebody more of around my generation would be the actress Juno Temple. Now, you may have seen her in The Dark Knight Rises, but you may also have seen her in Atonement, which I want to use primarily as the example. Now, Juno Temple, she's about, I think, 27 right now. But if you look her up, she also has that very childlike look. She can pass for somebody much younger. And in fact, in Atonement, which came out in 2007, she was 18. But she was playing a character that I think is supposed to be 13 because her character is friends with Bryony, played by the wonderful actress Saoirse Ronan, her character is 13 in the movie. So let's just say that Juno's character is supposedly like 12, 13, 14. She's very young, and they also dress her up very, very young. And she plays it up too with her voice sounding more like a little girl. And so from 2007 to 2016, March 2016, when she sat down to do the interview, she had been doing for 10 years basically the same type of young girl, schoolgirl roles. And in that interview with The Guardian, she actually exclaims in one part, "My character finally hit puberty on screen," meaning from then on, like now she's gonna be able to be seen as an adult. And it's like how happy she was in the article really stood out for me. Like she's an actress, and I think she's a good actress, and she was probably frustrated because she was relegated to the same childlike roles, even though she was probably craving something, maybe gritty, just something more adult, something her age, her real age. And she couldn't because of just how she looked. And one of her quotes was that her character has finally left boarding school and she's taking baby steps. She said, "Before, I'd go to these auditions with an older guy and they'd go, 'Nope, this looks like actual pedophilia.'" So it's frustrating because I guess they didn't want to cast her in anything that would look so disturbing, while at the same time she's legally an adult. So she was stuck in this weird actor pigeonhole limbo for a good 10 years. So yeah, it looks like from 2016 on she's actually been able to do more adult roles. She's done actually a lot of nude scenes, but she is an adult and she's been comfortable with it, so she's been able to really get those roles she's been eyeing for a while. And I'm not saying Maisie Williams did this for the same reason, to go straight into just full on nude scenes, but I think Maisie overall knew that Arya would have done something like this, and she was comfortable in her body to do too. Arya is a no-nonsense woman with what she's been through. She knows what she wants. She's not someone to beat around the bush about it. She is aware that she has to face her own mortality, and her relationship with Gendry is a special one, which is why she went to him, which is why she chose him to be the one she wanted to lay with for the first time. So this brings me to the second topic, the second thing that I guess people were kind of having issues with in regards to the love scene. The sudden abruptness, the abruptness of her lust. I guess everyone was thinking, where did this come from, And I get it. For the longest time, for a good couple seasons, I guess, let's take it to be a good couple of years in the Game of Thrones world, all she was doing was just battling. She was working, she was training, she was killing, and she was, I guess, people saw her only as the tomboy because of how she was dressed. Although in Bravos, she's shed the clothes that she was wearing when she left King's Landing and was with Gendry and Hot Pie and Lami. She's wearing what looks more like a smock or a tunic. So there's when I started to really see her as a woman, especially when she was training against the waif. But other people were still seeing her as just the little sister. And so they're like, how in this time, after all this time, could she come back and just suddenly be like, oh, I want to have sex, or I'm ready for it now. But the thing is, even though they hadn't touched upon that, her coming home, she was able to relax a bit more. She felt more at ease. So yes, seeing Gendry probably brought back a whole rush of emotions, along with the fact that they have something immensely important that's going to be happening soon. They have this war coming up, so she's not gonna play hard to get or anything. She's not gonna dawdle in regards to that. It felt very much in character for her to do that. She had probably suppressed any feelings she had thought about him while she was training because she just had to survive. She was in survival mode. But now that she's finally home and she's reunited with him, it's something special. She really respects him, and she had always loved him. because in the time when they were escaping King's Landing and they were in the time with the Brotherhood without banners, it seemed like she really wanted him to be her family, and she wanted to be his family because she could see that he didn't have anybody. He was still so hurt, I guess is the word, for being sold by the blacksmith like he's nothing. He was working so hard to become a blacksmith, and it's just his mentor all of a sudden just didn't need him anymore. So he was you could tell he was affected by it, and seeing her father killed in front of her, she was going through a lot too. So that brought them together as friends, as family. And you know what, maybe even at that time she had a crush. So that's where I feel like everything started. And you also have to remember that her closeness, her fondness for Gendry was so strong that she even put 3 people on her kill list for what they did to him. She put Beric Dondarrion and Thoros of Myr on her list for selling Gendry. And she put Melisandre on her list for kidnapping him and taking him from her. So I want to say that she had always had at least the crush maybe on him, but I don't want to make it sound just like this is a schoolgirl thing. Like, what they had gone through built so much in the relationship between the two that it was a beautiful thing. And a lot of people had also been hoping for that there would be some sort of closure between the two, whether it's either just the first meeting at Winterfell again, or a hug, or a kiss, or this. I think a lot of people had been hoping that since she is older, these stronger, more desirous, passionate feelings would come out, and they did. She's ready to fight, and he's ready to be part of the fight too. But for this one night that we have together, she wanted him. And you can see in the shot afterwards that she's worried. She's already thinking about what's to come in the next few hours. So, well, I wanted to know what you guys thought. Is there anything else in particular about Arya's time in that episode? Anything from that episode that kind of irked you, and why? Or if you liked it, let me know why. Or also, I want to know, who are your guys' favorite characters from the series? I always liked 2. The Hound is one of my absolute favorites, and Lady Olenna, very much so. I loved her very much. So I guess I'll end this first ever rambling episode on that note, and I want to thank you guys so much for checking it out. Sorry if it sounded a little scatterbrained, a little all over the place. It wasn't my intention, but it is a rambling episode, and I was looking to make a stream of consciousness type of episode, because that's how I talk in my everyday when I'm talking about films and shows. And so this is kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to use YouTube as a place for me to just kind of put it out there, like, what do you think of this movie, or what do you think of this casting choice, or what are your theories about where this show's going, or that, or which actor would do better here, etc., etc., etc. All that stuff, everything that I and a lot of other cinephiles can just talk about to no end. And I just wanted to upload finally, since I thought this was a great topic to talk about. And so thank you again so much for checking me out. I do hope maybe for a few of you it was like a good ASMR trigger, because I know for me, I do like listening to some podcasts if the host has like a soft speaking voice and I can just leave it playing on in the background, and sometimes I'll fall asleep to it. So if this helped you, great. If it didn't, well, no worries. I've got some more ASMR videos coming up. In fact, the next one that I'm going to upload will be ASMR, but the one after that is going to be another rambling episode. So I shall see you guys next time, and thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Where are you going?
I'm not spending my final hours with you two miserable old shits.